This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, Tom.
Thank you, John. I will call the meeting of November 18th, 2020 of the Waterways Committee to order. Presently, we have 6 members in visual and 1 on the telephone. And we also have 5 guests with us this evening. And Heinz Proft is on the phone. First order of business would be the review of the minutes of the October 21st, 2020 meeting. They have a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
All right.
Second, Joe Johnson.
No second, just a motion to accept. Any corrections or omissions to the minutes? Hearing that there are none. Oh, someone's looking at them.
So I just shared the minutes in case anybody had any questions. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes. Yeah.
Any corrections or omissions to the minutes as shown on the screen, or if you read them in person?
That looks good.
All right, then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The minutes are being accepted as presented. Consent agenda. John, there is nothing listed here.
Okay.
Oh, none. Open forum. None. Next order of business is the financial report that was sent out with the package that reflects October 2020 versus October 2021.
So I'll speak to it. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is our October revenue report. Again, there's really no surprises. I think if you look at the month totals, October FY21 compared to FY20, we're about $400 less than what we had last year this time of year for the month. I think a lot of it is just timing. If you look at seasonal dock rental, that's just, it's just when we receive payments from folks. Obviously, it's renewal time for permit holders to pay for their slips, and it's just a timing thing. So there is no, glaring concern with regards to revenue. If you look at our year-to-date, we again are still well ahead of last year's revenue this time last year. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
If there are no questions, we'll proceed to the next order of business. And the first item on the agenda is a proposed pier ramp and float at 64 Snow Inn Road. Don Monroe will make the presentation.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, John, and Heinz on the phone there. So you can see on the plan, I'm sure you all have copies of it, and since we aren't really able to share our screen, I trust that you've taken a look at it. We did do a number of options on the this particular location, and there's a line that we say is the maximum structure setback, 80 feet from mean high water. So that line, we left it on there because we wanted you to understand that we did try to meet the maximum length requirement without having to do any dredging. And when we positioned the float out in that deeper water where that 80-foot line is, we were actually closer to the adjacent floats on either side, each neighbor's floats, and we were closer to the mooring that we show on the plan. So we went back to the drawing board after trying to position the float at different angles and such, and different configurations at the 80-foot line, we came up with a dredge footprint that you see now that meets all the requirements as far as 25 feet from the salt marsh, no intertidal dredging, but it also increases to the maximum amount distance between the neighboring floats. We got 54 feet. I know the requirements under conservation are 65, but we can't make the 65 because we can't bring the dredge footprint any closer and meet the 25-foot setback from the salt marsh. But we have increased significantly the distance to the mooring that's located out and in the water, and also the position that the float is in now is actually in non-navigable water without the dredging, so the neighboring docks don't really need to use that area to do any maneuvering. So we feel that we meet, even though it's not 65 feet, we meet the non-infringing on someone else's rights to their dock, because we still are going to allow them to be able to position their boats on the existing floats and really not infringe on how they approach those two floats. The one to the north, they can still back in and use the waterway that's out beyond the 80-foot line on our plan and still have easy access to their float. And the float to the south, even though we're using the closest float system of their docking facility, the actual float that the boat sits on is further away. So we're actually trying to minimize how close we are, but maximize the ability for them to still be able to navigate and use their existing docks and float system. We also had a shellfish survey. We tried to position the float. If you notice on the couple of other plans that we submitted with the filing, that the shellfish survey only indicated a couple, three actual shellfish, but you notice where we're placing the float and the dock and the ramp is well away from that. Even though we're going to be dredging in the location of those particular shellfish that are found, they could be removed and then replaced later. Also, we're not opposed to doing some kind of mitigation for adding shellfish or to the shellfish fund or whatever that Heinz might be looking for. The sediment analysis shows that most of the material we're removing is anoxic mud or anoxic sand. You'll notice that the inboard side of the property, the yellowish colored circles show that that's pretty good material, but we're not dredging in that location. So we're minimizing any effect to the good sediment. I think the good sediment we're going to find is underneath the silt material that we're finding in similar harbors like in Allen Harbor, as well as this one in other locations. We also have made the height above the sediment. It's actually 5 feet above the at the mean high water line, so we don't really need a stairway up and over, but we are providing one set of stairs because we are relocating the access from the existing walkway that's there now over more to the south, so that it's more a straight shot instead of angling out to the float where we have it now. We prefer to be able to center the whole thing on the property as best as we can. And the stairway that we're having from the beach up is just for the easy access for the people that are walking on the dock to get back down onto the beach without having to go back up or around and down the banking. So we're keeping them off the banking because there's going to be a substantial bank restoration project that'll be presented to the commission when we go in front of them. So we do have plenty of depth when we do the dredging. The amount of material that we're moving, like I said, is not good material. It'll be probably most likely trucked off site. And let's see, we did meet, so that you know, we had it staked out. We met with John and Heinz on the property to view the project as you're looking at it now. So if there's any questions, I'd be really more than happy to answer any questions.
Before questions, John, could we have your comments and Heinz's comments also? John, did you hear me?
Yes, I just
Okay.
had
Okay. Okay.
to click unmute. So sorry it took me a little while to get the plans up, but hopefully
It's
you
helpful.
understood, you
It's helpful.
understood what Don was talking about, and if I need to go to any of the other plans, let me know, because I can do that. But as Don said, myself and Heinz Prof met on site to take a look at the project. Don Monroe from Coastal had marked the outer edge of the float, the edge that will be extending the furthest out into the waterway. And, you know, from my perspective, looking at navigation only, I was frankly a bit surprised because I didn't even think we had another property that didn't have a dock in Witchmere Inner Harbor, but there is, and frankly, the way that it is being proposed, it doesn't stick out into the waterway. It's well off the closest mooring, while it doesn't comply with the setbacks of 65 feet to neighboring floats. I still think there's plenty of room for navigation where it is situated. It's with the dredging, it will be relatively tucked in. As you can see, it doesn't extend anywhere near out as far out into the waterway as the float to the north, and it's even within the float to the south. So it's just, I think, an ideal kind of location where they have it situated. There's a little bit of a, I don't know, an inlet cove or whatever you want to call it that allows it to kind of be set in there. So from a navigation standpoint, I don't have any concern with what has been proposed, even though they don't meet the side setbacks. And conservation will look at that, I'm sure. That is a part of a bylaw that's defined in the water dependent structure bylaw, that there's certain setbacks that they have to meet. So they may require a variance, and I don't know how conservation will address that. But from my perspective as the harbor master, looking at navigation only, I don't see any concern there. So Heinz, I'll pass it on to you.
Thanks, John.
Hello, everyone. It's Heinz Prof, Natural Resources. I'm going to make a few general comments about this project, which also covers the next one, only because I don't want to repeat myself in terms of just Witchmere Harbor in general, and then I'll say some specifics about both. Again, both John and I were there today, saw the site. This is in the northwest corner of Witchmere Harbor. When Natural Resources looks at something like this, there's three things that you usually cover. One, possible herring migration, that's non-existent. Eelgrass disturbance, that's not occurring. And then shellfish, and that's usually the one that gets a little bit more attention. Division of Fisheries looks at the entire Witchmere Harbor as a shellfish habitable area. That's not a make or break with any project, but it's just something that comes up. So it's not surprising that there were some shellfish found there. It's not an area that gets seeded by the Natural Resources Department. From the stuff I raise in the Shellfish Lab, I stay on the east side of Witchmere Harbor, just a little south of the town pier, and then north of the town pier up until Larson's Park there. But then the sediment gets a little bit more, you know, this kind of muddy, oozy concoction of stuff. Sometimes we call it black mayonnaise, especially the further you go out. This site is a little bit better bottom than the next project, but without a doubt, for them to reach their water depth, it will require dredging. Now, I'm not opposed to that. Dredge has 6 letters in it, but somehow conservation thinks it's a 4-letter word from time to time. So that'll be a hurdle. The idea of shellfish mitigation, certainly this would fall within the realm of probability, you know, of having that done. And that's very common in this environment here, or this kind of a disturbance they look at. And then I, through Natural Resources, would replenish with shellfish seed, maybe not specifically in this spot because of that bottom I just described. And the public doesn't shellfish on that side of the harbor. There's just too long of an access, and somewhat precarious walking through mud bottom to get there. So that's why I stay on the east side. So in quick summary, I'm not opposed to what I saw today or not opposed to the project as it was presented. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Heinz. Any questions from the members?
I have one question. This is Kent. Does size, I don't know, John, for navigation, does size of boat have any concern? Last week there was a question about somewhere on there that we limited the size of a boat. Does that come into play here since they're less than the 65 feet?
You know, Ken, they're gonna be tying up their boat along the face of the float.
Sure.
And again, I think there's plenty of room to do so without impeding navigation in between the docks and the mooring field in that location. You know, if they were thinking of tying their boat up on the side of the float, either the south side or the north side, then I guess I would be a little more concerned because then they start getting a little closer to the neighboring floats and the boats that are on there. Like that north float has a pretty good
Right.
size Grady White that ties up on the south end of that float. But you know, the way the float is orientated, I clearly think that they're going to be okay. Now, what will restrict the size of the boat is the busyness of the waterway and all the moorings and their ability to come and go. So I don't have much concern with the position of the dock and float system in that regard.
Dan Hall, you had a question?
Yeah, I mean, whose responsibility is it to, how should I say, keep the restraints to the 65 feet? Is that up to us or the selectmen?
I think I'll answer that. I think it's the Conservation Commission. You know, we're an advisory board and they certainly take our input as it relates to navigation. And ultimately the Conservation Commission does what it needs to do to enforce the bylaw. My guess is they're going to require variance to do this because they don't meet the setback. But ultimately it is their decision as the approving authority.
All right, so if we approve this, I think we might want to, put in there that the variance isn't met and, it's up to them, to kind of keep ourselves safe.
John, do you?
Yeah, I think that's wise. I mean, we can say we recognize that they don't meet the side setbacks, but, we don't see a significant navigational issue with the plan.
John, did that go into the minutes?
It would go into the minutes.
Okay.
If that's, you guys need to obviously make a motion and work through that.
All right, entertain a motion regarding that comment, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, any other questions?
No, not yet. No, disregarding your comment to include that comment
Yeah,
in the proposal. I think
Yes.
that's got to be approved first, and then we vote on the whole project. Yeah.
sure.
So what's the motion you'd like to make?
Well, we approve, I mean, my comment would be we approve the plan as proposed and that the setback is not met and that the selectmen need to know that. I mean,
It's not the selectmen, it's the conservation.
I'm sorry, Conservation, I'm sorry.
Conservation Commission.
Sorry.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, including the comment that Dan Hall just made. Or do we accept his comment as the motion? And then we'll ask for a second.
I'll accept
Tom,
the
can
answer
I-
and take a second on it.
I'm sorry?
Tom,
I'll
can I
accept.
just interrupt
Go ahead.
real quick?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, just, I think what Dan was trying to say, and I think it's wise, just make sure there's no other comments from any of the committee members on this project before you make the motion.
Correct. Doesn't sound like there's any more questions.
Any further comments or questions on the proposal? We'll entertain a motion to approve this site plan with the comment that Dan Hall made regarding the setback and the Conservation Commission having to approve it.
Correct.
Who's making the motion? I can't make the motion.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Oh, Dan Howell makes the motion. Is there a
Right.
second to the motion?
Second,
Kent, is that you, Kent?
correct, yes.
Chairman, through the chair,
Yes, sir.
before you vote, can you tell me what the language might be that you're anticipating from Dan Hall, just so I can get an understanding? You're being an advisory committee. I just want to make sure that there's not necessarily a bylaw interpretation by an advisory committee. Maybe just let me know what you think that language might be, Dan.
It's essentially that I'm just trying to protect the committee by saying that, you know, we approve this plan, but the setbacks are not met. I just want to make that noted.
Okay, can you add on to that, I'm just throwing it out there, so I'm
Yeah.
not trying to force the committee in one direction or another, but that you recognize that the setbacks aren't met, but through the advice of the harbor master, he doesn't see that there's navigational issues?
Sure, okay, all right. So I'll do the motion. So the motion would be that the plan does not impede navigation per the harbor master, but we do want to acknowledge that the setbacks are not met.
That sounds good, Dan. Thank you.
Kent, since you've seconded it, do you accept the comment that Dan just made?
Yes,
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Entertain a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Okay.
The next order of business is number 2 on the agenda, proposed reconstruction of pier, ramp, and float at 49 Snow Inn Road, in parentheses, Higgins. And I presume it's Roger that's going to make the presentation, or is someone
Yes.
from else from Coastal Engineering?
This is Roger. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yep, this is Jay.
Okay.
This is
Thank
Jay.
you
I'm going to
for-
bow out.
What was that?
Thank
This
you
is
for
Jay. I'm
allowing-
going to be.
Okay, go ahead. Hello, this is Roger. I'm making the presentation on behalf of the owner, Mr. Higgins. This site is the location of an existing licensed pier that we're proposing to reconstruct. And when we got involved in this project, when we did our bathymetric survey, we discovered that the depth of water at mean low water under the entire square footage of the float doesn't quite meet 2.5 feet below mean low water. And so for that reason, this application proposes to extend the pier slightly so that the float can go towards the harbor probably about another 7 feet. And with that shift, and still maintaining the overall length at 80 feet or less, the overall facility from mean high water, we're able to naturally get the 2.5 feet of water depth. And again, as John had said earlier that he and I and Heinz had met out at the site and viewed the site and looked where the markers were for the relocated float area. I believe at that time, Mr. Rendon suggested that he would prefer that the float stay in its present location and not go out that additional 7 feet due to the moorings presently located in the harbor. That kind of puts us into like a catch-22 situation because, and I'm sure the committee's well aware of it, when we get to conservation, we may run across some issues with proposing dredging, which we have in the past on these kinds of projects. So I guess the bottom line is that because the site is primarily anoxic muds, as can be seen in this photo here, as presented by Pam Newbert, dredging is not an issue. We can easily do the dredging if the float stays exactly where it is, and we can keep the dredging within the out of the intertidal zone. We can keep it in the subtidal zone. If in fact we're required to, on the basis of navigation, keep the float in its present location. However, that kind of puts us in a quandary between this committee and the Conservation Commission. So I don't know if there's some way that a determination can be made with an either or. I mean, our client's perfectly happy with where the float is now in its present location and doing the dredging, provided we can get the permits at conservation. That's kind of our quandary here. Again, this is a licensed facility, licensed back in 1947. It's been in place for quite a long time, but it's in not very good condition. So I think it needs to be totally reconstructed as shown on our plans.
John, I've got to defer to you for comment and your opinion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, I mean, like Roger said, I saw the site, and as I stated to Roger at the time, I do not support the plan as proposed at all. I don't. It's already a very tight area, as I think you can probably see from this picture. You know, this is full of moorings here, and this is a narrow throughway here where boats transit in and out of the mooring field, and extending it any further I do not support. I do think you know, that dredging has occurred in Witchmere Inner Harbor outside of the intertidal zone, which this would apply. I think keeping it in its current location and dredging is the better solution here. But I will not support extending it further out into the waterway. And I'll pass it on to Heinz if that's
Right.
okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Heinz, do you have any comment to make?
It's Heinz again.
Yes.
So I'm not going to reiterate the idea of the water body, which is Witchmere Harbor, and how it falls under the Fishery suitable shellfish habitat. This site, and I think the engineer would confirm, if it were to get the approval to be dredged, that material, you have to go quite a distance. That ooze, there's nothing going to be living in there. So if there's an arrangement that works for the length, width, and so forth, navigational wise, that dredging material can go somewhere else, and don't want to see it. But again, nothing in terms of eelgrass, herring, and shellfish. Again, this is on the east side of Witchmere Harbor, and I'm not opposed to what I saw today, and not opposed to how it was presented to the Natural Resources Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee members before we entertain a motion? Hearing no comment. Yes, Dan. Dan Hall.
So, yeah, so has it been already denied for dredging, or do we just not go on that, try not to go that route and extend it out?
Roger?
Mr. Chairman, this is Roger again.
Yes.
Our client's perfectly happy to leave it where it is. In understanding the navigation issues, is there some mechanism? Our plan does show the existing facility. There's an existing condition plan at the top of the sheet, and then there's the proposed. The only change is extending the pier out a little and pushing the float out of 7 or 8 feet. It would be helpful for us if the committee could endorse the concept of leaving the pier the way it is and requiring dredging, that an issue that we have to deal with at Conservation Commission, as opposed to getting continued and having to come back here in another month.
As chair, I'm not sure what you just said, because I thought you originally said move the pier, the platform out, and now you're saying leave it as it is.
The issue is that it appears that Mr. Rendon is against us moving the float out. So that's what the proposed plan shows here. However, on the same plan, we also show the existing conditions, and then the way we see it, there's going to be no change to the location of the pier under that proposal, and the only difference is we have to do some dredging under the float. So if it's possible, we would like to get the endorsement of the Waterways Committee to say, yeah, as long as you keep the pier where it is, that the Waterways Committee was primarily concerned with navigation issues, that they can endorse just a reconstruction of the pier in its present footprint, and then that would allow us to make application to Conservation Commission. And on that plan, we would show the dredging, the amount of dredging, which, as you can see on the plan, Meanwhile Water is close enough to the landward side of the harbor that we're not going to have any issues with having the dredging outside the intertidal zone. We can easily meet that criteria.
John, does that change your thinking?
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem with that, with what Roger has requested. I think we make it clear, if the committee agrees with me, that there is, that we don't approve the proposed plan to extend the ramp and float, yet we have no concern with rebuilding the existing ramp and float in its current footprint and allow dredging in order to get the required depth.
If I could, Mr. Chair, this is Glenn Wood, counsel, working with Roger. I think what Roger's and my concern is we just don't want to revisit it. John knows this well. The Novak situation across the harbor, where we ended up with 7 options over a couple of years with myself and Mark Burgess. And ultimately, a month ago, this committee approved that, allowing us to go out a bit more. In this instance, we have, as Heinz has said, we have no shellfish habitat, black and oxic mud. And I think that our client's fine with leaving the dock as is. It's just that our concern has been that the commission has been lukewarm sometimes if there's any environmental issues associated with dredging. In this case, there are none. And so as long as we can get those findings built into the committee's recommendation, as well as in John's recommendation and Heinz's recommendation, we're more than happy to keep the design as is, so that the message can be sent to the CONCOM that, leaving the dock as is, as it's been there since something like the 50s, and is licensed under Chapter 91, fine. Our client's just trying to make improvements to a dock that's been there for many decades and structurally needs some help. So that's our basic concern is that we'd like to have you build out in your decision, as well as any letters or email findings from John and Hines to the Concom as well.
But my understanding is you're asking us to approve a proposed plan. So we can't, go ahead. Anybody else, any comment on this?
But we're prepared.
I guess they're looking for a denial with a recommendation of not doing anything to support working with what is existing. Is that correct?
No, we're not looking for a denial. We can
denial of the new plan.
Well, go ahead, Dan. Paul.
Well, it's denial of moving the float out 7 to 8 feet and approving to rebuild the dock and the float as is, with the consideration of dredging. In that, in its current location, it does not impede navigation, and we would advise to seek dredging opposed to moving the float out, which would impede navigation and would ultimately be denied. Correct?
So do you want to make a motion to that effect, Dan, and then we can have discussion on that?
Can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John.
This is John Rendon.
Yeah.
I think we make it crystal clear that we do not approve of the plan proposed. At least that's where I'm at, because that's what's before us, and that's what we've been asked to look at. But we can also state, however, we are not opposed to reconstructing the current pier that is properly licensed in its current location, and we are not opposed to dredging that would require them to get to the depth they need. But I just think this committee needs to make clear that we don't approve the plan as proposed.
That's my understanding. Motion to that effect?
And Mr. Chair, can I speak again, please? Glenn Wood. John, would it be better for us to table this for a month and just come in with a revised plan and go back to the original footprint and just have the committee endorse? Instead of denying something and recommending, maybe it's cleaner for us to just come in with something that you endorse.
I think that would be much cleaner from my perspective.
Why don't we?
I agree.
Why don't we continue this on behalf of our client for a month? Come in with a plan that you guys are comfortable with, which we appreciate, and maybe in a month, maybe we can also indicate though why the plan is what it is and why the committee and John, you yourself, which we appreciate, didn't want to extend it further out to impact the ring channel, if you will.
Entertain a motion to table this proposal.
I make a motion that this proposal is tabled until next meeting.
Future, I would say future, because he didn't say next meeting.
Okay, well, I said next month, but next in the future.
Second,
I'll second it.
was that Larry?
No, can't with glasses.
Oh, Joe. Any further discussion?
Yeah, it's Hines, and I don't want to make it too cumbersome, but and I agree with not that I have a vote here, but that it wasn't really denied. But let's say forecast a month ahead or whenever the next meeting is, and then doesn't get opposed, and then it goes in front of the conservation, and they have some sort of comment of, well, why didn't you just build it out further? Yet there's nothing in the history that says, they're just gonna have to voice in a concise way that says, well, more than likely that's not going to go anywhere. But I could just see them trying to confuse the issue by looking at this dredge and say, well, why don't you just simply push it up further? But I don't know. They're going to have to prepare to deal with that down the road. But I just wanted to add that.
Well, that's our concern as well, Hines. And I think what we would be asking is for the committee in a month to, maybe spell out some of that history, or we can build that into a narrative, and maybe that could be part of your motion as well, and maybe part of John's recommendation, because you're exactly right, Hines. What we're going to run into is the Concom. If it isn't clear why we're making the change and staying with a historic footprint, we know that the chair of the Concom is going to say, well, extend it out so you don't have dredging, and then we're right back in the Novak scenario.
Exactly, yeah, good. Articulated, and if it comes out in that type of summary down the road, that would be good. Thanks.
Thank you, Hines.
But that doesn't entail changing our present motion. Is that correct? Is that your understanding, committee?
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm new to this, so my question would be, is there any harm, or I understand what Glenn's saying, is there any harm in denying this proposal?
John?
Well, there's no harm on our part. I don't know how the applicant or Mr. Wood would feel about going in front of the conservation with a plan that doesn't have the support of the waterways. That he'd have to answer that, or the applicant would have to answer that. But I think it's our job to act on the proposal that's in front of us.
Mr. Chair, I agree with John. I mean, as a norm, we don't want a denial. I think it would be better just to table it to a future date. We surely will be back in front of you next month, and hopefully we can blend in some findings as to why the committee and John felt that the original design we came in with, wasn't appropriate from a navigation perspective, and hopefully a bit of that can be baked into your hopeful approval of, an in-kind restoration of the existing dock.
I only have one question. Wouldn't that be more in your proposal and in your narrative than us stating it?
Yeah.
You would say that you've exhausted all avenues in dealing with the Waterways Committee, and that we've done the best we can, and this is what we have, and they're working with us. But it's not us saying it; it's you saying it, and that's what we vote on.
Right. So we would build that into our revised application to you, and then we would hopefully look for some, in terms of your motion, some concurrence to that effect, so that at least that can be communicated to the Concom, the history, if you will, the evolution of this project, to get through a positive approval by your committee.
Yep, that would be in your narrative. Yep.
Yes, thank you, Ken.
Yep.
All right. Leah, are you there? Can you read the motion that was made so we understand it?
Sure. I have a motion made by Kent to table the proposal to a future meeting, seconded by Joe Johnson.
All right. Is that everybody's understanding? Then I'll call it for a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next order of business is the old business that's on our agenda by Mitch Tischler who requested a change, proposed to change current charter sea permit slip wait list to include a separate list for sailboat charters. Who's going to present that? Is Mitch going to present that, or just do we just have to discuss it?
This is John. I recommend that we ask Mitch to voice his goal here, and I'll put up his letter in case you guys haven't had an opportunity to see it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate having the opportunity this evening to discuss this possibility. That's what I'm requesting, is for the committee to consider, the possibility of splitting the existing unattached sea permit into two categories. And the benefit of doing that is that we'd be able to bring sailing charters, which has been a very popular offering over the years, back to the marina, back to the harbor. And I've discussed this matter with the staff in the harbor master's office, and they indicate that since Bob Rice of sabbatical retired, that there continues to be frequent requests for this service. So splitting the list would make it possible for this to occur sooner. And I've had a recreational slip in the marina for the past 30 years, and I'd like to have an opportunity to be the one to bring sailing charters back to Saquatucket. So I'm grateful that the Waterways Committee is open to having a conversation about this possibility.
John, could you make comment on it and ask Hines if he's involved?
Yes, 1 second here. Thank you. Any need to keep this letter up? Everybody see it? Okay, read it? Read it? Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so Mitch, thank you. And I'll just make a few comments. One, I think he's absolutely correct that there is interest, there is a demand to have sail charters available at Saquatucket. Those of you who know the harbor well know Bob Rice did it for many, many years, and he was busy and active and a successful small business that was dedicated to sail charters. So I support the idea. It's how we go about doing it. We currently have 3 unattached charter permits. And you might ask, well, what's unattached mean? We have C permits, which are charter permits that are assigned to folks throughout the harbor. We have a total of 9 attached C permits. And all that means is that permit is attached to the slip. So if somebody, let's take, for example, Mort Terry, he's a charter boat captain, Fishtail. So he's got a permit to run charters, and the slip that he has is a designated charter slip. So say Mort decides to retire and he no longer is going to charter, he gives up the permit and he gives up the slip, because that slip is attached to the permit. And we have 9 of those throughout the marina. We also have what we call unattached permits, and that means that a person has to operate and have dockage or mooring in Harwich, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at the marina. So, somebody could have an unattached permit that allows them to run charters out of Harwich, utilizing town facilities to support their business. And they could have a mooring out of Allen Harbor. They could have a slip with the yacht club. They could have a slip with Harwich Boat Yard. They just have to have permanent dockage or mooring in the town. It doesn't necessarily have to be a town mooring or a town slip. They just have to be operating within Harwich. And so I think it's a popular thing. We like I said, we have 3. We recently added one. And so what I would suggest, if you guys support doing this, we have an existing wait list for unattached seed permits. We have a separate unattached wait list and a separate attached wait list. And so it's already established. So we have to be cognizant of that. And so in order to achieve what I think I would support and what Mitch is looking for, is to go in front of the Board of Selectmen and request that they add an additional unattached permit. So that would be number 4. And that permit, that new permit, would be designated as a charter sale permit, only for running sale charters. And then we would go to our current unattached wait list, starting at the top with the person in the number 1 position, and ask them if they would like to accept that permit. And we just go down the list. You know, the first person on the list may be a powerboat guy and has no interest in sailing, so he would stay where he's at. And as you work your way down the list, the first person who, you know, is a sailor and wants to run sail charters, we would assign that permit to that individual, and then we would finish working our way down the list. And if somebody wants to shift from, you know, say we have currently, I think, 22 people on the unattached wait list. So say, you know, the number 21st person on the list intends to sail and he wants to jump over to the wait list for the unattached sail permit, we'll switch him over. We work our way down the wait list and then we open it up to the public to go on. So that's kind of how I envision doing it without impacting the people who are currently on the unattached wait list. That's probably really confusing, but
Yeah. Well, I have a question. How would Mitch get on that list?
So Mitch is on the list. He's on the unattached list currently.
Oh, you
But
are?
he's not number 1. And if we approve this, there's no guarantee that this permit will go to Mitch. And he knows that. You know, we'll work our way down the list, and if it comes to him, then he'll accept it. If somebody takes it before him, my guess is he'll shift to the wait list for that permit, the sale permit, and he may end up being number 2 on the list or number 1 on the list instead of number whatever he is on the current wait list.
Dan Hall?
So why, I mean, what constitutes only having like 3 permits, or actually we just approved the 4th? I mean, is it so we don't encumber onto the attached, you know, charters, or is it so we don't burden them or take any business away from them?
That's a good question, Dan. And yeah, I mean, it's a couple of things. You know, obviously there's a reason why the Board of Selectmen want to approve these. One is we have to be cognizant of impacting the current charters that operate out of Harwich. And we also have to be careful that we don't overload our facilities. You know, we have offloading facilities. You know, with that permit comes the ability to take on fuel and to offload passengers and offload catch, and it's an offloading permit. And so we also have to be careful of not overtaxing our facilities by having too many people running charters out of Harwich. So, you know, is 3 the right number or 4 the right number? I can't answer that. I think right now, I, as the harbor master, have not gotten any gripes or complaints from our current charter boat captains who think that we're taking business away from them, or that they're not able to make a living because there's too many charters. And so, I mean, but that could happen. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, I just think why if this goes forward, if we split the list into sale versus power, I mean, right now it's all power.
That's
Right.
not true. Anybody can be on that list.
Oh, okay.
So there's a bunch of people on this list that are sailboat guys.
Oh,
I shouldn't
okay.
say a bunch. I shouldn't say a bunch. Let me just reframe that. There's several people. There's a few people on our list that are waiting for that unattached permit who intend, when they get it, to sail.
Okay.
So all we're doing is trying to preserve at least one sail charter in Harwich by doing this. So when this, say Mitch gets it and life changes and he can't charter anymore in 2 years, that permit wouldn't go to the next person on the list, on the current list, and some power guy take it and then it's gone, you know.
Well, see,
It would-
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I mean, I think that's where it adds a little complexity to it, because like you just said, there's some people that are actually on the list right now that are going for sale. And if we split the list, well, now they have to go on the sale list. Correct?
They don't have to. They can stay where they are. We're going to give them the option, because we are going to create a permit for sailing. And when you do that,
Another permit. So it'll go from 3 to 4.
correct, we're going to ask the Board of Selectmen to approve another unattached permit. So that's the first step. If they don't want to approve it, then we don't make the change. But if they do,
Would that be strictly a charter license?
Yes.
Not just a general sailing, it would be a charter license.
correct, it would be a charter permit, charter unattached permit. Meaning the person who has that list has to have their captain's license to run charters, a 6-pack license. They have to have insurance. There's other criteria that comes with that. But that new permit would be designated a charter sail permit.
So and then the ones that are sailors now, you're going to ask them first if they want to be charters to be on that license, up for that license. Yep, okay.
Correct.
But how,
Go ahead, Dan.
how can we have like I say, we're going to have a list for powerboat and sail, and then just one just for sail?
So
One for charter is the way I understand it.
Well, they're all charters.
they are all charters. And so if somebody wants to stay on the current list, say the number 2 person on the current list intends to sail. But, let's say, let me use a different example. So say the number 2 person on the list wants to sail and he takes the new permit. And then the number 5 person on the list intends to sail. But he thinks he has a better option of getting the unattached permit staying on the current list instead of going to the sale list. There's nothing, I'm not going to force that person to go on the sale list just because he wants to sail charter. We could end up having more than one sail charter in Harwich. Not likely, but
It's almost like we're just asking for another unchartered permit.
we are asking for another one, but the new one we're designating as a sail permit. So when somebody gives it up, it has to go back to somebody who's going to use it as a sail charter.
So how many people on the current list would opt to go either way, I guess is the question.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say, any new applicants for that list moving forward would have to choose sail or power, and then after the current list is worked through with that 4th permit being designated for sail, then you have to apply for one or the other, rather than people on the list right now, they could choose, hey, I'm up, I'll take the sail one.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay, well, let me answer the question. So first of all, you can be in as many wait lists as you want. You got to pay a fee, but you could be on, there's many people who are on 5 different wait lists, waiting for mooring, slips, etc. So they can very easily be on both lists. But the sticky point that I want to drive home is the people who are currently on the wait list, they have an anniversary date. For example, the first person on the wait list got on that list in December of 2013. We cannot disadvantage that person because he's been waiting a long time. There's a lot of people who have been waiting a long time. So we're going to go to that first person if we create this new unattached permit, and we're going to say, we've created a new permit. Do you want to take this permit if you intend to do sail charters? And he's probably going to say, no, I'm a power guy, I'm going to stay where I'm at. And we work our way down the wait list. And as we work our way down the wait list, these people on the wait list have to choose. They have to say, I'm going to stay where I'm at, or I'm going to go over to the sail charter list. And keep their anniversary date. That's the key. So say that somebody who's been on since 2014 says, you know, I'm going to stay where I'm at, but I'm also going to get on the sail charter list. They can do that. But when they get on the sail charter list, they have a new anniversary date. They do it as of today or tomorrow, or they have, you know, they don't carry that 2014 or 2013 anniversary date with them. You understand that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fine. It just seems like at a point it just murkies things a little bit. But I mean, that's perfectly fine. If you explain it that way, that's fine. If people understand it that way, that's fine. I mean, I think it adds a little more revenue. So, I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it adds a little diversity, more diversity to the marina by making sure we always have availability of a sail charter. Because right now people are going elsewhere because we don't have it. So they're going to Chatham, or they're going to Dennis, or they're going outside of Harwich because we don't offer it. And I think it's something that we should.
I mean, my only concern is that we can't continue to keep adding permits or whatever, because we are taxing the facilities as is.
Okay, then you should vote against it. But I think from my perspective, I think we're not there yet.
No, I don't think so either. I'm just voicing the concern that,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think we're there yet either, but it's getting close to that. But
I have a question. Will this permit be attached to a certain size slip?
No,
No? Okay.
it's unattached, so it doesn't have a slip that's, you know, so somebody could have a mooring and operate the charter. All it provides is they have the opportunity to come in, use our bulkheads to offload passengers,
Okay.
take on fuel. Yeah.
Okay.
John?
Who's that? Somebody?
Yeah.
Mitch, go ahead, Mitch.
So Dan, in reference to what you were speaking to, burden to the marina, demand on the marina, it's a different, I would say that, really objectively, it's a different load doing a sailing charter than it is, the powerboat charters, the fishing charters. It's we don't have the fuel demands. Our vessels, don't need to, use the bulkhead to get fueled up as frequently. We're not offloading fish. I mean, it's a lighter usage in that regard.
oh yeah, no, Mitch, no, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm all for it. It's just the parking lot's full, and a lot of people even at this time will say, "Oh, there's no parking issue going on." So
Right, that's a very good point.
Yeah. I'm all for it. I mean, I want to see, I love to see more diversity down there. So it's just a lot of people will still be in denial about parking issues and things like that. And yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you don't have the fuel. You're not calling in a fuel truck, a big,
Right.
whatever. But
And I guess the thing is, like, if Bob hadn't retired, it still would be occurring. Like whatever demand was there It's just that he retired and there's, zero option for that now, and there's a request occurring. So it'd be really nice to bring that back to our, really our magnificent marina that we now have.
I want to continue to add to that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Can I call for a motion?
Well, I have one other question for John. Just is how that business would work. Would they onload and offload over where the Perseverance and where the Captain Kidd are? And then would they also need a ticket booth out in like the other ones, or not? I don't know.
No, absolutely. It's a 6-pack license. It's not like these passenger boats who carry, 40 people and 50 people. And, that's why those guys, they have big loads. These are simple. The most they can take is 6 people. They would tie up over at the floating dock at the east bulkhead to pick up passengers, drop off passengers. In the case of Mitch, if Mitch gets it, he has a slip at Saquatucket, so he would use his slip, but not everybody does on the wait list. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see a huge demand on our facilities by adding a sail charter.
I'll entertain a motion.
Hey, Tom, I think I wrote a motion up here.
Who is that?
Dan Casey.
Oh, okay, Dan.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the motion to add an additional unattached charter sale permit number 4, which would be a C permit. Maybe reword that.
Dan, did you?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Dan Casey, that's it?
That's it.
A second to the motion?
Second.
John, where does this go if we make this motion? Do you take it to the selectmen?
Yes. And if I could just, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I would make one suggestion just to make it very clear that you're adding additional unattached charter permit designated for sale. I just think it's important. And maybe you did, Dan. I didn't catch it, but just make sure that it's going to be something designated for sale charters.
Okay, I'll redo it.
Rewrite it, Dan, please.
Okay. Add an additional unattached designated charter sale permit number 4, C permit.
Should we state to request the Board of Selectmen to add that?
And do we need to do anything as far as creating an additional wait list, or does this permit have to be accepted first?
Once the permit is approved, Larry, our office creates the wait list. So, when I present this in front of the Board of Selectmen, I'll have to write a memo, and they're going to ask, did the Waterways approve it? Or, they're going to ask your position on it. I include that in a cover memo when I present it. And in that, I define that there'll be a separate wait list for this permit.
Gotcha.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead, Dan Hall, or Joe.
Go ahead, Mitch. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah.
Oh, Mitch.
Okay. So just so I understand, there's already 3 unattached C permits.
I thought
there was already 3. There's already 4.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, John. I thought there was 3, and then we approved the 4th. Or am I incorrect?
I think we have 3 currently.
That's what I wrote down. We have 3.
We have 3, and this would be the 4th.
So are those other 3 for power, or they're general? I just so I understand.
They're not designated, Mitch.
Yeah. Okay.
They're not designated, so it could go either way.
Right. Okay.
Motion was made by Dan Casey, seconded by Dan Hall. Leah, could you read the motion, please?
Sure, Tom.
Thank you.
So I have a motion by Dan Casey to add an additional unattached designated sale charter number 4 C permit, seconded by Dan Hall.
Everybody understand the motion? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried. Okay, thank you, Mitch. Thanks. Good luck.
Thank you, committee. I'm very grateful for this consideration, at least to get the process moving. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next order of business on the agenda is the monthly reports. Selectmen. John, your harbor master report was sent out today. No selectmen.
Yeah, you know, I didn't send out my monthly report because I was on vacation and didn't get it done before the agenda was due, but I'll send it out to you guys. You know, it's just kind of informational. We do a monthly report and usually it's included in the agenda, but I didn't get it, but I'll send it to you via email. Nothing major, you know. We're getting ready to haul our channel markers that we haul every season. And so those will be coming out. We got all the swim buoys in, all the moorings over at Long Pond taken care of. So we're wrapping things up for the season. We have a number of what we call B permits. All the commercial fishermen who come from Chatham or elsewhere who typically come every winter to operate out of Saquatucket. We currently have, I think, 12 permits, 13 permits, something like that. We usually have somewhere in the range of 17, 18. So we'll see where that goes. But we also have a number of recreational boats who have decided to take advantage of the winter term and stay in the water. So I think, you know, again, we're generating some good revenue and utilizing our marina, our upgraded marina throughout the winter as well. So I think that's a good thing. But that's all I have. And Heinz,
Okay.
I know does.
Is Heinz still on? Heinz, are you still on?
Hello, it's Heinz.
Do you have a report?
Yeah, you know, the only thing that's really changed in the last month is, you know, that rain that we had on several days has actually helped our water levels. We're still behind, but we've seen an increase in the water levels at Seymour, Long Pond, Hinckley's, Skinnicket, and that's actually helped some herring fry leave our system and head back to the ocean, which is a good thing because I was a little concerned a month ago. Still would like some more rain, but we've gone in a good direction in the last 30 days. Thanks.
Thank you, Heinz. No correspondence that I have a record of. John, do you have anything? John?
No.
No correspondence. I have one comment or question. Next meeting date, December 15th, that's a Tuesday. Is that where we're going to schedule it?
Is that what I put on the agenda?
That's what's on the agenda.
And then I screwed up. It should be the third Wednesday of every month. So it should be what, 16th then?
It'll be the 16th. Okay.
Come on, John.
Sorry, man. That's why you're taking over for me, Dan.
All right.
I can't say I'm gonna freaking make it right either. So.
All right. If there is no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:21.
Motion to adjourn.
Dan Hall, second.
Second.
Joe Johnson, thank you.
Yep.
Still see me? I lost my video.
Yeah,
I
we
can
can
see
you're
you.
there, Joe.
We can see you.
Chris
Joe.
Kringle.
We're stuck with you.
All right.
You're
All those in
uglier
favor of
as ever, Joey. We still see you, man.
Also in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Leah. Okay, thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good job, guys.
I'll leave it.
It wasn't how to leave the meeting.
How do you? Oh, you have to get rid of us.